Well, it's an absolutely beautiful day outside, and it's actually far too hot and warm to be in the workshop. But I just thought I would have a go at doing a live stream today, just to see what all this live streaming business is about. So what I've got on the bench today is a Murphy television set, which, as usual, I know absolutely nothing about. Hi, George. Hello, Paul. So welcome to the first live stream. Seeing as you're watching me, can I actually hear anything I'm saying? I wasn't even sure if the microphone's working. Perhaps you can give me... Oh, and Benji's lurking as well. I wasn't actually expecting people to join. That's come as a little bit as a shock that somebody might actually tune in. Can anybody hear what I'm saying? Is the microphone actually even working? Somebody give me a shout. Give me a thumbs up. Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Oh, God. Marco's reps joined us. Northern Rambler. Well, who have we got? I think that's usually the score, isn't it? Oh, and John Ward. God, I'm amazed. John Ward's actually joined. Big fan of John Ward's channel there. So let me just see who we've got with us. So we've got George Christopher. So a big hello to George. We've got Cody's, which is better known as Paul. We've got the Happy Little Fox, which is Benji. Hello, Benji. We've got Mr. Dubj. I never know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry about that. We've got the Northern Rambler. Hello, Victor. We've got Marco from Marco's Reps. We're Not Worthy. Thank you very much for joining us today, Marco. That's amazing to see you here. And John Ward. Again, a big fan of John Ward's channel, so I'm surprised John's tuned in, so that's amazing. And we've got Bretsky. So thanks very much, everybody. Well, today on the bench, I've actually got this Murphy television set, which I thought we could actually have a look at. I don't know anything about television sets. I think some of you have seen that I've just done one television restoration in the past. So I've got one television behind me, so that certainly doesn't make me an expert. But I thought I've got another television to have a look at. I don't know how we'll do today. I don't think we're going to get it powered up. This is literally just a first look. Let's have a look at it. For all I know, the CRT tube in this could be totally smashed. I actually bought this from Goldbarn about 2 years ago. So it's actually been kicking around under my desk for at least 2 years, maybe even a little bit more. And I've not even looked at it yet. So I've got no idea what type of condition this is in. It could be smashed for all we know. So the little bit I do know about this is this set was made by Murphy, and it was made in, I think it was March 1958. I think I've got that written down here. Yeah, this set was first produced in March 1958, and it would have cost the grand total of about £40. So it says £40 and 19 shillings. So I don't know if anybody can convert that to today's money, but I suspect it was not an insubstantial amount of money back in 1958, £40. I suspect that was probably at least, it must have been probably a month's wages, that wouldn't it have been in 1958. It certainly wouldn't have been an insubstantial amount of money. So yeah, made in 1958. And the model number, I suppose I should turn it around. Let's have a look at the back, because it's got the model number on the back. So we've got the model number on the back here, and it's type V350. So it's a Murphy radio company, Welwyn City, type V350. And it's interesting, the cabinet, I've never seen a cabinet made out of this stuff before. It seems to be made of like compressed fiberboard. It's probably a bit softer than fiberboard. It's more like paper mache type material. So it's not like a square box. It's got curved edges. So it must have been pushed into some kind of mold when they originally made this. So the first the question that I've got is actually how we get into this thing, because I'm not sure. I think we've got to take the knobs off from the side, but it's not exactly clear how they come off. Let's just check the comments. What's everybody saying? Fancy seeing you here. Yeah, it's a surprise to me as well, Bretsky. Have I got the bishop's finger? No, I haven't had the pleasure of the bishop's finger yet. Oh, hello, Colin. Nice to see you there. Have I made a H-shaped antenna? No, I haven't. I haven't made a H-shaped antenna. That's what they would have used back in the day. Ah, okay, that's brilliant, John. So John says that £41, if you actually accumulate that in today's value, that would be about £980 today. Thanks very much for that, John. So £980 in today's money. So that's not an insubstantial amount. In fact, Paul's also put a figure up. He's got a slightly different number. He's got £977. So yeah, I think we're in the ballpark there. So the first thing we've got to do is figure out how to get into this. And I've got to admit, these side knobs have got to come off, and I don't know how to do it. And that could actually stop us pretty quickly, couldn't it, if we can't get these side knobs off it? Because I think the whole cabinet must come off. But to do that, we've got to get these off. Now, in the instructions, it says, certainly it says that the tuning knob here, which I'm guessing that this is the tuning knob, it says it has to be in the BBC position, but I'm not exactly sure what position is the BBC position. Okay, I'm guessing that is a BBC position. I don't know if you'll be able to see. There's actually some labels. It's like a clear perspex knob, and there's some writing inside the knob which actually rotates, and there's a small marker on the side of here which actually says BBC on it. So there's a small marker which the wording BBC has to line up to. I'm sorry, I can't bring you in. I'm just using a small webcam. I haven't splashed out and bought expensive cameras or anything like that. So unfortunately, no. George says just pull the knob off. Yeah, well, we have to pull it off in the BBC position, it says. But it talks about releasing some grub screws or something like that. Shall we try turning it over the other way? Well, I can't see anything there that would release. There's no access holes. There's a little tiny hole here, which a little plug. Maybe that plug has to come out. I'm guessing that must be for something. I think the hole that's been exposed here, I think this is maybe a tuning slot for actually tuning it into the channels. It does, I'm sure it says that it just pulls off in the BBC position. It's certainly very stiff. We got Paul here. Paul says he's an apprentice. Paul, how do you get the knob off this set? Does anybody know? Pull your knob off. Come on, somebody must know how to get this off. I can't see any grub screws holding it. In fact, there's no visible fixings on here. Now it looks like it's got some very big screws holding the paper mache on, but I think until we get these knobs off, it's not going to go anywhere. Now, I have actually downloaded quite a few manuals. A few people there I can see in the chat, they're talking about the manuals. I can probably tell you what I have downloaded. I've got the, hopefully you can see that. Is that focus? You can just about see that. So this is the original workshop manual for it, which is the from the manufacturer. So that's what I've downloaded first of all. So it might be that I'm just going to stop for a few minutes and read that. I've also got something called ERT, which is Service Sheet 1266. I've got that. I've also got the Trader's Sheet, Service Sheets, which is 1462. And perhaps I just have to read those now. So I'm quickly just going to read up on that. Maybe somebody can beat me to it and tell me. Paul says that it's on book page 42. It's on RTVS book 1958 on page 472. Okay, so Paul's having a look for me right now how to get this knob off, because we're going to fail at the first gate if we can't get the knobs off. Oh dear, it's quite embarrassing really. I haven't got anything else prepared to do either, so if we can't get the knob off the set, we're going to fall at the first hurdle there. So I've also got this RR data sheet, which RR service data sheet, and I think it does give you a description in here. So service notes. So I'm going to read the service notes out, and maybe you guys can decipher it. So it says dismantling station selector knob. The station selector knob can only be removed or refitted while it is in the BBC position, while the turret is in the BBC position. So, yes, that is in the BBC position. Removal notes. Turn the station selector switch to the BBC position and remove the side control knob and their fittings. Paul's just said that some TV sets had a small metal claw holding the knob on. Put your glasses on, Chris. Actually, that's a good point. Oh, they're over there. I constantly lose my glasses. I'm afraid, you know what it's like. I can't see without glasses. I can't see very well anyway. So what happens is I take my glasses off, and then because I can't see, I can't find them again. So I'm afraid I spend whole days, whole periods where I'm afraid I'm more or less blind because I've put my glasses down somewhere and I can't find them. So it's not telling us anything apart from it has to be in the BBC position. It's not mentioning any grub screws. Although I'll keep reading. All right, okay. Turn the station selector switch to the BBC position and remove the side control knobs and their fittings. The grub screws can be reached through the special slot provided in the cabinet back. Oh, right, okay. That's maybe the bit I was missing. All right, okay, it's making more sense now. If anybody is wondering why this is all going a bit Pete Tongo, it's going wonderfully wrong. This is my first live stream, by the way, so we've never done a live stream before, so it was never going to go very well, was it? But we're doing our best here. Right, okay. So apparently there's a grub screw down there. I'm going to see if I can find a torch because I can't see into that slot. Oh, there is indeed. I can see a screw lurking within there. What's that Georgia just says? Losing your virginity on a live stream. Yeah, I'm definitely losing my live stream YouTube cherry today, George. So there is a grub screw down there. Well, maybe we need a better fitting screwdriver. Talking about screwdrivers, has anybody watched John Ward's new video? I watched it yesterday about the difference between Phillips head and posi drive. Now, of course, I've got a selection of posi drive and Phillips head screwdrivers, and what was interesting about John's video is that he actually tells you how you can tell the two apart. I mean, I always just try them in the slot, and if they fit, they fit, and if they don't, they don't. You know, you've got it wrong. But apparently, by looking at the screw, you can actually tell whether or not it's a posi drive or a Phillips head. So that was actually quite interesting to note the difference. I'm certainly going to have to remember that for the future. Okay, we're unscrewed the grub screw. Is that going to come off? Oh, we have a winner. Winner, chicken dinner. So maybe I can show you now. It has, can you see the words BBC inside it? So you had to line that word up, BBC. When you line the word up, BBC, with a little arrow, which is on the side here, it exposes that grub screw. So this grub screw here, hopefully you can see that. That grub screw is actually only accessible in one position when it's in the BBC position. So apparently you've got to install and remove it in the BBC position. So that's one of them off. Okay, and it looks like the grub screw it's combined with a volume. This is a volume control on this side. So it looks like the grub screw is accessible when the volume control is in the off position. Also, we've got Old Bloke who've joined for us. Hello there. Ah, right, okay. An Old Bloke if is just talking about the Japanese screws, which I actually think are the best screw. Are they called something like GST screws or something like that? I don't think I've got any of those Japanese screwdrivers, but I believe they are actually better than Phillips or posi drive. Everybody who I see talking about, oh, Japanese Industrial Standard, GIS, that's correct. Benji's got it right, GIS. So apparently those GIS screws are pretty much the best. And certainly you'll find them on a lot of stuff like Japanese cars, won't you? So, yeah, I've definitely seen GIS screws on Japanese stuff. Oh, and Paul's just said, you've stopped me from videoing a Perdio Popsy. Now I have the feet on the bench and a big bag of kettle chips. I wouldn't bother watching me, Paul. You'll be far more productive making your own video. Oh, and Graham's joined us as well. Hello, Graham. So that's the first. Graham's actually watching one of my live streams as opposed to typically on a Sunday. I will spend most of my Sunday watching Graham's live stream. So we've had a bit of a turnaround there. So for Graham, who's just joined us, I'm taking a first look at this Murphy television, which is a Type V350. It was made in 1958, and apparently it cost the best part of £40, which in today's money is about £900. So yeah, it's pretty old and beaten up, and it's pretty grubby actually. But yeah, okay. So I'm just trying to get the knobs off it because you can't actually get it out of its chassis until the knobs are off. Okay, so I think that should have released the volume knob now. There you go. Just shows you, doesn't it, that sometimes you should actually bother to read the manuals, because I never read the manuals on everything. I like to just plod on regardless, and that's what happens when you plod on regardless. You just have no idea what you're doing. So there's the knobs off. Now, apparently the next thing you have to do according to the manual, because I did read some of it earlier, is you've got to turn the set onto its front now and probably put it onto something a little bit soft. And then it should, I think the whole cabinet then should pull off. I think we've undone all the fixings there. So I've got a towel here, so you can put it onto a towel at the front. George is saying that maybe next week we can actually take the cover off. Well, I've got to admit, I'm not planning on being on very long today for a couple of reasons. I mean, I'm actually thinking it's an absolutely lovely day outside today. So you want to be outside getting some fresh air, not cooped up inside watching me. So we're certainly not going to go on for any longer than an hour today. I want to keep the time down because as much as anything, I'm going to run out of things to say. So a few people, I'll start again actually. When I decided to do a live stream, I wasn't really planning on doing it, but some of my friends, including Paul and George, said, why don't you do a bit of a live stream or a hangout? Because it's not so much what you've got on the bench. It's just some people that have been watching your videos might like to take the opportunity to say hello and maybe find out a little bit about you. Maybe they've got questions. So if you want to know, anything about myself, the channel, I'm not going to tell you everything, of course, but I've got to keep some secrets. But if any of you have got any questions about the channel or maybe any of the previous restorations that we've done, anything you liked or didn't like, now's your opportunity to just leave it in the comments, and hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. So yeah, the main focus of today, although we've got a television in front of us, I wasn't necessarily planning on getting the television working. The main purpose of today was it was just going to be an hour-long hangout so that I could get to say hello to some of my subscribers and actually to thank everybody who has subscribed to the channel, and particularly to leave comments. Now, I actually quite enjoy making the videos. In some ways, I enjoy making videos more than some of the stuff that I actually work on. I like making videos and I like editing the videos, although just recently I am wondering, there's only so many videos you people can watch of me changing capacitors. And I'm kind of wondering if some of you are getting a bit bored with watching me just change capacitors in valve sets, because it is very, very samey, isn't it, to just keep doing the same thing. So I am wondering whether or not to try to look for some other things to do. But the main reason I do this is because I do quite enjoy making the videos. But what I really enjoy is the fact that I've made friends from all around the world. There's people who watch my little videos in America and Australia and New Zealand and France and Germany and Belgium. And when I actually uploaded my first video, I mean, I was actually amazed. I actually said, I bet I'll never get more than 30 subscribers. And I remember when I actually reached 30 subscribers, I was absolutely amazed. I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't believe that anybody could be bothered to watch my videos and especially take the time to leave comments. So for the people that do leave comments, I'd like to thank everybody who's left comments on my channels in the past. I really enjoy reading your comments. And I think you probably noticed that I pretty much do answer every comment. I've not got I'm luckily I don't have so many subscribers yet that I don't have time to answer your comments. So anybody who leaves a comment on my channel, I will always try my best to give you an answer. I may not know what the answer is, but I will always try to give you an answer. So let me just read any of the comments that have come up. George says that he's not going outside because of the cancer death rays. Well, I think it's not just the cancer death rays. It's It's all those microchips and the COVID jabs that we've got to worry out, apparently. far, far in a galaxy. Yeah, it was quite a long time ago that I started this. I think it was about 3 years ago that I uploaded my first video, and I think I've got something like 300 videos up now. Is that a clean t-shirt? Yes, but you notice you're only seeing my top half. I'm actually hiding my fat belly, which is lurking down here. Graham said, are you going to do some more CB stuff? Yes, I think I probably will do some more CB stuff. As some of you know, I've got a bit of a fetish for the American AM sets, which of course are totally useless in the UK because they're illegal to use. But I quite like working on the American CB sets because I find them a little bit different. In fact, I've actually got 2 or 3 CB sets which Graham sent me, which were on the bench when he sent me. We gave them a quick look over, but we didn't do any more work on them. So actually, Graham's got a good suggestion there. Maybe we should have a look at some more CBs. Again, CBs aren't something that I know about, or really anything that I've got a great interest in. And the same with valve radios. A lot of people, you know, you watch my videos and you seem to think I'm an expert in valve radios, and I'm really not. I've probably restored about 10 or 20 valve radios, maybe 20, near it. Yeah, I've probably restored about 20 valve radios in my lifetime. Well, you know, somebody who worked on an electronics workshop back in the day, he probably worked on 20 valve sets a day or something like that. So I'm certainly not an expert compared with people that have worked in industry. The reason that I like to work on valve equipment, in fact, what I'm trying to say, it doesn't have to be valve equipment. I just enjoy working on stuff. I like problem solving, I like fixing stuff, and I like learning about new technology. And in fact, once I've actually finished restoring these valve radios, they tend to go in a cardboard box, and that cardboard box goes into the loft. And I don't use them. Once the actual restoration is finished, I lose interest in them. But unfortunately, I don't seem to lose enough interest in them that I can actually just put them back on eBay. You know, you put your life and soul into these things, and I don't know, it's silly really, isn't it, that I prefer to put them in the loft rather than sell them on. But I think the other reason that I don't sell them on is I'm always a little bit worried about the liability, because a lot of the equipment that I work on, it's mains related. Valve radios and stuff weren't particularly safe back in the day. Certainly television sets were responsible for a lot of fires in houses, and I kind of think that I don't particularly want to put valve equipment on eBay. Of course, you can do things like cut the plugs off, but you know, it does worry me. So that's one of the reasons why I don't sell equipment on that I've worked on. Maybe that's a reason that I should get into more battery sets, because I know that Graham and Paul and George, they do a lot of battery radios, and I guess you don't have the liability issue with working on battery equipment. Certainly, it's been a little bit of a worry to me working on mains equipment. But to cut to the chase, I don't have a huge love for valve equipment. It's more the fact that I like to spend time in the workshop. What my wife would say is it's anything that gets me out of doing the washing up or doing the household chores. So I always say that, you know, the next thing on the bench is the most vitally important thing. Yeah, and Paul's just said there, Cody's, he said that, yeah, it's not always about the destination, it's about the journey. And that's very much true. And it's the same with the actual comments, in that, you know, I could probably edit my videos down to one episode where, you know, you see me fixing a TV in like a 20-minute period. But I kind of think, where's the fun in that? It is a little bit of a journey that I try to take you on, and you come along on the journey with me. And I actually do rely on the comments that you make. A lot of you have given me good advice, and you've helped me fix problems, fix sets that I wouldn't have been able to fix on my own. So again, it comes back to the fact that the people who've made comments really contribute to the channel, and you know, they really help me out a lot. So Ed Studio Workshop, hello mate, what's this? Oh yeah, it's another 405 line set. What do you mean it's another? This is only my second 405 line. It just feels like I've done more because I drag it out so long, Ed. That's what it is. Now, this is only my second ever television. Right, we were trying to take the lid off this, weren't we? Okay, so I've got the, it should be loose, that now. It doesn't feel very loose. It definitely does feel like it's made out of a... It is definitely kind of made out of cardboard, this. Oh, there she blows! He said, it's almost off. Oh. Oh. Had an accident. These feet have been pushed in and I think they're actually catching on the chassis. Can I pick you up a bit? There you go. What's everybody saying? Yeah, horrible to dismantle. It feels, I don't know if it's because it's old and maybe the maybe like the paper mache material has shrunk or it's twisted, but it's getting caught up on the chassis. It's getting hung when I try and lift it up. You want to see me having a good tug live? Okay. Yeah, you've got to find a room for all the fixed stuff. I've got every nook and crevice in my house has got a valve radio crammed into it. It actually drives my wife spare. She's not very happy with me. Oh, I think it's coming. This looks like a, what is it? These aren't the droids you're looking for. What was that film? Oh, Silent Running, Huey and Louie. Was it Huey and Louie? I just, for some reason, then that just appealed to me. It reminded me of one of those droids out of Silent Running, which is one of my favourite films. Have anybody's seen that? Does anybody remember Silent Running? Have any of you watched that film? I think they were called Huey and Louie, the little robots, weren't we? Oh, was that the Black Hole? I can't remember. Oh, right, okay. Well, it's quite a substantial chassis. Wish I could bring you in a little bit closer. Let me just see if I can do that. Sorry if it's all on shaky cam. It's the best I can do. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better now. Oh, and we have the usual cradle of filth. I'm definitely not going to do too much on this radio. There is about an inch of dirt and dust sat on here. So I think what we need to do is, I'm not going to be able to do this today in here. Because it's going to be too noisy. But I'm going to have to take this outside and probably blow it off with the compressor because it is absolutely thick with dust. But the first thing that I've spotted when I've lifted this up here is it's nice to get a warning here, and I don't know if it will make out on the camera. Certainly I can't see very well what you're seeing, but it says danger live chassis. So this is potentially a live chassis set. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I don't know if many sets had transformers in. Unlike valve radios where you get a lot of transformers in them, for some reason this live chassis style seems to be the way that most televisions, or certainly all the ones I've played with, they all seem to have this live chassis scenario. And I'm guessing it's because they've got so many more valves in than, for example, a radio. You can actually series up all the valve heaters and probably get somewhere near to 240, whereas it's not so easy to do in a radio. Of course, you know, the Americans, they have those, they call them all American 5 radios. They're very lucky because their valve lineups, their 5 valves, they add up something close to 110 volts. So a lot of their sets seem to not have transformers. To have transformers in American sets, it seems to be a rarity. But televisions, it seems very much, all the ones I've played with, that most of them are live chassis. Now, you don't necessarily need to get too worried about the idea of a live chassis. It doesn't always mean the chassis is live. But it can be. So let me find the mains connector, because I think there's a mains lead for this somewhere. Okay, well, I have got a mains lead which I've put down somewhere. So the problem with these types of televisions is you can see that there's a 2-pin connector down here. I can put some light on it. So you've got a 2-pin connector. Now, one of these pins will be connected to the chassis, and because the chassis connector isn't polarized, depending on which way you put the connector on, the chassis will either be connected to the neutral, which if it's neutral, that's effectively earth pretty much. So if you touch the chassis, you're not going to get a shock, although it could still trip out your earth leakage circuit breaker, which is a problem. And yes, I've been shouted at many times when the video recorder switched off halfway through EastEnders because I've managed to touch an earth chassis. So yeah, so the chassis can either be connected to earth, but if you put the mains connector on the opposite way around, it won't be connected to earth. It'll then be connected to the live wire. So then the chassis is live to 230, 240 volts, whatever your mains is. And of course, if you do that, you're in trouble then. You're going to get a belt. One of the things that I do to try to make things a little bit safer, I don't know if you can probably see it on camera. I've got a socket which is here. This socket says isolated on it. So this socket on my bench, it's what I use for working on live sets, whether that's a valve radio or a television. So what that does is I've got an isolation transformer underneath my bench. So whenever I'm working on anything that's a little bit iffy, I always work off this this isolation transformer, which is just a little bit safer. Now you can still get a shock off it, but you're not going to get a shock off just from touching the chassis. Let me just have a look at the comments. Average Joe says hemorrhoids. Not today, thank you. Oh, a few did have transformers. Right, okay. Yeah, I think some television sets had transformers, didn't they? And in fact, some of the most dangerous television sets to work on are the ones that got the HT derived from a transformer. So this will have what they call a line output transformer. So it's got a valve here, which is an oscillator which provides drive to what they call a line output transformer. And a line output transformer is a relatively high frequency transformer. That's how they managed to make it relatively small. And I suspect the HT for this set is probably somewhere between 10 and 15 kV. So the line output transformer, which is under this cover here, I can just see the top cap of the valve poking out. What was I going to say? Yeah, so these line output transformers, of course, they can give you a very nasty electric shock because the television is capable of generating is 10 or 15 kV. but they are current limited. Now, I wouldn't like to say I would want to get an electric shock on one of these, but if you was to get a direct shock off them, you'd probably get away with it. But there is some early television sets out there which actually derive their HT supplies from an actual transformer. And the problem with those transformer supplies is that they could actually deliver quite a lot of current. I think some of the early television sets, which were called projection sets, they used to have quite high voltages, maybe 30 kV, because they had a very, very long tube on them. And you needed a very high voltage to get the electrons to jump off the cathode and go on a long journey. You had to really accelerate them down the tube till they splatted on the phosphor at the front. So those early projection sets, as they called them, they not only had very high HT voltages, they also had these mains transformers, which could actually generate an awful lot of current behind that HT. So probably if you came in contact with one of those high voltage outputs, it would almost certainly be fatal. Whereas if you come in contact with the anode supply to this tube, it's going to be very unpleasant and it's going to throw you across the room, but it probably won't kill you. Why the interest in valves, TVs, Chris? Graham, I think the interest in valve TVs is because I've done quite a lot of valve radios, and I kind of think if you can repair a valve radio, you can repair a valve television, because a television is really just a more complicated valve radio. It's got a few more circuits in and oscillators and stuff like that, but it's not totally different. So I think having done 10 or 20 valve radios, I wanted to learn about something new. So all this is new to me. I'm not talking to somebody who's got any expertise in television. This is only the second television I've ever worked on. So it's the learning which is the fun part. If I knew everything there was about televisions, well, for one thing, I'm the sort of person that's got a very short entertainment span. I get bored very quickly. So before I become expert in any subject, I get bored with it and move on to another one. So I kind of got a little bit bored with doing valve sets and wanted to try learning something new. And I've moved on. There has to be new lands to conquer, as they say. So having learned, I think, as much as I needed to know about valve radios, I've moved on to televisions because I know nothing about them, and that's the interesting part, is learning about the equipment. Again, once this television's done, I'm not going to be watching old programs on it. It's going to go on a box in the shed, and I'll maybe find another old television to work on. It's the work that is the fun here. It's the journey, not the destination. Let me just catch up on some of the comments here. So Benji's saying he's never bothered with TVs himself. Yes, they can buy. They have got some high voltages in them. But then again, lots of other equipment has high voltages in it as well. I mean, many years ago, when I was also a radio amateur, and I used to build my own valve-based linear amplifiers, and quite often the anode voltages on those amplifiers would exceed 2,000 volts, and again they would have a lot of current behind them as well. So I actually think TVs are probably quite a lot safer than some of the linear amplifiers that I've worked on. The other thing that I used to work on back in the day, I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of companies that have fired me. I've worked for lots of companies over the years, and one of the companies that I used to work for used to do a lot with lasers. So although I may appear like a bit of an idiot and a bit slapdash in what I do, I've actually done quite a lot of work with high voltage power supplies, and currently I work in the rail industry. So my supply voltage for the stuff I work for is 25,000 volts at 2,000 amps. So I'm quite familiar with working on high voltage stuff. But like everybody else, it's easy to make a mistake. And yeah, if you do make a mistake, a television set will quite quickly punish you for it. Eric's saying, I've got an old pre-war Marconi 707. Okay. He said it was scary to restore. I guess one of the problems with old televisions is that, of course, this is a 405 line television. Now, of course, they don't even transmit 625 lines in the UK anymore. But hopefully there's still enough video recorders and DVD players out there that have UHF outputs and converter boxes. So if you've got a 625 line television set, it's not a great problem to watch programs on it. But if you've got a 405 line television, you need a piece of equipment called a standard converter, which the one I've got is called an Aurora, and that converts composite video and an audio input into the 405 line format. So these need a special transmission format called 405 line, and nobody transmits that anymore. And unfortunately, these standard converters, they're quite expensive. I seem to think the Aurora that I bought was, I'm going to guess and say it was around £300 or £400. It's a lot of money to spend on a hobby, isn't it? And of course, I understand that a lot of people don't have that kind of money to throw away on a television set. But I think there's quite a few people that are interested in old televisions, and you can still buy these standard converters. And I noticed that on the British Vintage Wireless Society, I think a chap there has just invented or just brought out a new standard converter. I don't know if you can still buy the Aurora, because the FPGAs which they use to convert the video format, they became obsolete. So I think maybe you can't buy the original Aurora, but I think there's a new converter, a new standard converter, which is available by a chap on the BVWS website. And I think he might call it the new Pineapple converter, because there was a previous standard converter called the Pineapple. I think this one might be called the Pineapple too. So again, if you're interested in 405 line televisions and wonder where to get standard converter from, if you have a look at the television section on the British Vintage Wireless Society website, there's some links on there to the person who's now making these Pineapple 2 standard converters. So you're going to have to buy one of those if you want to watch television pictures. Average Joe says Sam says he's happy with his Quad 303. Yeah, I've got a Quad 303 as well. Maybe that's something that we could have a look at on one episode as well. Graham said he's got a Cobra 148 GT DX that he wants to do the alignment on. I think is the GT. I think that's an SSB rig, isn't it? Because I know that we've talked in the past about doing some SSB alignment. I've never done an SSB alignment on a CB, but I have done it on a lot of amateur equipment and transceivers in the past, and that's using things like a two-tone generator. So maybe if anybody's interested in seeing an SSB alignment, we could do that in one episode in the future. George says he likes guitar amps and RF amplifiers. Yeah, I think George has got a big radio mast, so I've got no doubt he's probably got a big Linnaeus tucked under his bench somewhere. Okay, Ed said he's got the Hedgehog converter. Okay, so the Hedgehog, it's funny, they have funny names, these standard converters. So again, the Hedgehog converter is another standard converter. So again, I don't know if that converts from composite video. I'm going to guess that it converts from composite video to 405 line. And Benji's saying he's still got his old television from when he was 9. So was that a 625 line, Benji? I'm guessing, was that a 405 line? I'm not sure. Average Joe says, dig out the quad. Yes, well, all right, we'll get out the quad at some point. And George is saying there he's got a 1 kilowatt, 1.6 kilowatt. Yeah, okay. Is that kilowatt? Kilovolt supply. Okay, kilowatt. Right, okay, so back to the television. Well, having got the cover off it, I'm not really planning on doing very much more today because it's actually just too filthy to work on. I need to take it outside. Maybe I can turn it round and just show you some of the capacitors and things. So looking at this one, it looks as though it's absolutely filled with waxy capacitors. So it's obviously a little bit older than the Stellar television that I had that didn't have too many waxes in it. Let me just turn it around and maybe you can have a closer look. So you can see that this is actually all full of waxy. There's some of those ceramic picofarad capacitors. Oh, I can also see a couple of those black licorice all sorts. I think they might be mullard capacitors, the black mullards. But certainly the vast majority of these are waxes. And I can also see that this waxy here, this 0.1 microfarad one, it's actually got wax leaking out the end of it. So it looks as though that one has been quite hot in the past. You can see we've got, can't see too many electrolytics. I think we've got an electrolytic tucked down here. We've got an electrolytic can there and another electrolytic there. But it's not got any great big smoothing electrolytics in. They seem relatively small. Maybe that's because it's a portable set. Oh, I've just spotted something. It looks like it's got, can you believe it, a selenium rectifier. Let me see if I can show you that. Oh, okay, I just said that there wasn't any big electrolytics. Okay, so we've got a ginormous electrolytic here, a big Jubilee one. So let me just see if I can read that. So we've got a dry lytic capacitor. It's a type CT, and it's got red 150 microfarad at 350 volts, yellow 200 microfarads at 350 volts. So that's that great big can here. So we have got a big electrolytic. We've got a diode just bodged in here. I'm wondering if somebody's been here before me, because I can see a big selenium. Oh, my hands are absolutely black. This thing is so dirty. So there is a great big, can you see this thing with fins on it? Let's see if I can bring you some light on it. Can you see that, this thing with fins on? So I'm guessing that this is a selenium rectifier. I'm not certain, because there's also, this could also be a copper oxide rectifier, but I'm guessing it's a selenium rectifier. I'm struggling to see if there's any wires on it though. It could be that somebody's actually replaced this selenium rectifier with there's a diode which is just bodged in here. So it could be that somebody's already taken out the selenium rectifier, because they do have a habit of going kind of short circuit, and they smell horribly of garlic and give off clouds of white smoke when they fail. So it could be that somebody's taken this selenium rectifier out of circuit and they've replaced it with a silicon diode, because this diode doesn't look original. It just looks as though it's been bodged in. So this component that's on top here, this is a choke, which is in the power supply circuit. Now you can see on the top here, we've got some huge resistors. So basically, there's a couple of, I'll just bend the television down a little bit. You can see we've got these two banks of resistors here. So I think these two banks of resistors, one of these banks of resistors is designed to set the filament voltage of the tubes. So depending on what the supply voltage is to the television set, you can actually just set the correct voltage across each of the valves using this. So this is actually on the, interestingly enough, this is at the 200 volt tapping at the moment. Oh no, it's not, it's on the 250. Okay, I was reading the wrong end. So it's set to 250 volt tapping here. And so one of these resistors is actually used to set the current which is going through the series heater string for the valves. and the other resistor on top here. This is actually used to set the HT voltage. So there's two sets of adjustment that you have to do here, and they've got these little brass contact fingers on them, and they're both set to the 250 volt setting at the moment, which is ideal because the output from my high voltage transformer is around, the output from my isolation transformer, it's always a little bit high and comes out nearer to 250 than it does 230. So I'm quite glad to see that it's got this high voltage tapping on it. Now I can also see we've got a capacitor here, which appears to be fairly close to what I would call the mains input section. So I'm wondering if this capacitor here is across the mains capacitor. Certainly it will be one of those which tends to explode. I wonder if we can just check out the which of these connectors is to the chassis. I suspect one of them will be. Let me just check the chat, make sure you people aren't talking about me behind my back. Oh, there's Simon. Hello, Simon. I didn't see you sneak in there. And Simon's got a 30 kilovolt supply. Yeah, does anybody remember that I restored that? I think was it a high volt? What's the name of that company? Something High Volt. That was a 30 kilovolt supply. Unfortunately, I was never managed to get any high voltage connectors for that. I did 3D print some connectors for it, but they tended to flash over when they got to about 25,000 volts. But it's Miles. That's the name of the company, isn't it? Miles High Volt, and I think they're actually weren't they based in Hove, Brighton, something like that. They used to make a lot of high voltage equipment. And in fact, if any of you have been looking at the British Vintage Wireless Society auction, if you've been through the list as I have, there is actually a Miles high volt HV meter on there, which has piqued my interest because I do quite like high voltage stuff. I mean, obviously it's very, very dangerous, but it's quite a lot of fun as well, isn't it? Oh, so old bloke says he worked for a chemical company that recovers selenium. All right, okay. Is selenium one of the active chemicals in anti-dandruff shampoo? For some reason I thought it was. I could be wrong. Yep, Simon does play with high voltage every day. Yeah, he is. Yeah, well have to be careful, old man, playing with high voltage at our age. It gets a bit dodgy, doesn't it? Yeah, it's all fun until you touch the wrong bit. That's for sure. Hunting high volt. I thought it was Miles high volt. So it's hunting in Shoreham. Yeah. I think it's the same company, isn't it? Miles High Volt, stroke Hunting High Volt. I'm sure it's the same company, or one bought the other out. In fact, at one point, they actually got bought out by Farnell, I think. Okay, so I was actually just going to measure these connectors so I can just work out which one is connected to the chassis, because I think one of them will be. Okay, it's that one. So this prong on the right-hand side here, it's connected directly to the chassis of the television set. So if you were to plug a mains lead in the wrong way around, you could see that you will connect the live cord to the chassis here, whereas you want to connect the neutral. So I think what I will do is I'm going to just give that a clean, and I'm going to put like a lightning mark on it or something to warn me. Well, just to let you know, guys, I'm going to be wrapping up shortly. I said I was only going to do an hour because I think you all need to go outside and get some fresh air and exercise, as much as it pains me to say it. And also, I'm probably running out of things to say on this television set because I'm going to have to go and give it a bit of a clean. And before we actually start working on it, and maybe give you a little bit of time to think about this set and tell me where you think we should start with the restoration. So I'm probably going to disappear in about 5 minutes' time. So if any of you've got any burning questions, anything you want to ask me, nothing too kinky, I'm afraid. If any of you've got any burning questions that you want to ask me before we finish today, any of my subscribers, I'd be glad to answer them for you. So just drop them in the comments. So I'm just going to put a mark on here to show that this is the live chassis connection. And I'm going to put a big note written on it in my idiot language that says live. Yeah, do I need a moderator? I think everybody's been quite well behaved, haven't they? I don't think we need a moderator yet, but yeah, maybe I could appoint George or any of my friends, George or Paul or Colin. I'm sure somebody would moderate for me. But I'm glad to say I think all my audience has been very well behaved. I guess I'm very lucky, really. Maybe it's just one of them things because I haven't got enough subscribers yet. I haven't suffered any, nasty comments. I know that some people get nasty comments left on their websites or on their YouTube videos. I've been very lucky that I think in all the times that I've been posting videos, I've only really had bollocks. Thank you, Sam. I've only had one kind of nasty comment left on there, which, to be honest, I think I pinned it because I generally think that they're quite funny. I mean, I don't want any. I think sometimes you get these sex bot things which automatically comment. I just remove them, but I don't really mind what comments people put on the website. I think most people who put silly things on there, they tend to embarrass themselves more than they embarrass me. And if they leave something really horrible, I tend to pin it and make it the subject of the thing because, if I think they're an idiot, let's share it and let everybody else let them know they're an idiot as well. So I don't do. I believe in very light touch moderation, as long as people aren't, being too horrible or too nasty. Don't like any form of bullying or anything like that. Kind of have the zero tolerance to that kind of thing. But I'm glad to say that I've been really, really lucky with all the comments over the 3 years I've been doing this. I haven't really had anything particularly nasty, so I guess I've been very lucky. So I think, what am I going to be doing next on this? Well, I think what we'll be doing is we'll probably be in a separate video for the first part of the repair about this. I'm probably going to try to expose the terminals of some of these big electrolytics. I'm going to make sure that they haven't gone short circuit. I might do an ESR test. But what I like to do is I've got a separate high voltage power supply. I've got a Heathkit DC supply. And the primary HT voltage on this television set is around 205 volts, I'm guessing. So what I will do is I'll connect my supply via a current limiting resistor, and we'll see if we can get 205 volts on these main smoothing capacitors. And also then probably have a look at the set using the thermal imaging camera. And if we see any of the waxy capacitors looking a bit unhappy, looking a bit Mr. Melty, Mr. Floppy, we'll go ahead and change those capacitors out. The other capacitor that we've got to find is this. I'm sure this television, like most of us, will have a boosted line. So it's probably got a 500 volt boosted line output as well. So we need to identify what the boosted line capacitor is, because they have a habit of going bad. And I think they can also destroy the things like the line output transformer. So we need to try to identify the boost capacitor and probably just change that out as a matter of course. So my next stages are to get some HT on this, see if anything gets hot, if anything smokes. Once we've done that, we'll probably go ahead and we'll run it up with a variac. Unfortunately, using a lamp limiter doesn't tend to work so well with televisions. I think partly just because I don't have a lamp which is suitable. You probably want something that's 200 or 300 watts, whereas I think I've only got a 100 watt bulb at the moment. So I will probably run it up on a variac, and hopefully the line output will fire up. The line output oscillator will start, and if it does, that should generate some HT. So that's my first kind of port of call, to try to power the setup and try and get some HT on it. But before I do any of that, I've got to give it a really good clean, because these things generate HT. They become a vacuum, don't they, for all the dirt and dust in the room. So all the components are coated with millimeter thick of just really horrible black gunge. Not only does that short out and cause the HT to flash over, the other problem is that I suffer quite badly from asthma, and I don't want to be breathing all this dust in my room. So now we've taken this out of its case, I'm going to take this downstairs. I'm going to put a mask on, and I'm going to blow it off using my air compressor in the garage. So hopefully when we bring it back into the workshop and have a look at it for the first time, it should be a little bit cleaner. Okay, well, I think for today, I said I was going to do about an hour, and we've now done about an hour. So once again, I will thank you, my subscribers, for all the people that have taken your time out of your day to come in and leave comments and talk to me. It's very much appreciated. Again, I'll thank everybody that's bothered to leave a comment on my website. It's very much appreciated, everybody who leaves a comment. I do read all your comments, and I do always try to respond to them. So I think I would like to leave it there. So I'm going to wish that you all have a wonderful bank holiday. Go out and get some fresh air. Go and run around the lawn and enjoy yourselves, because we don't get a lot of nice weather here in the UK. So until next time, I think I'm going to say that'll do. So until next time, oops, got to do it properly. So until next time, everybody. That'll do. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. But until then, bye-bye for now. Bye-bye. Anybody know how to switch this thing off? Bye, everybody. Bye.